Probably not with a gap. I mean, you'll still get the benefits of some exposure to heat, but what we're looking for by following your workout as closely as possible with a sauna session is that your core temperature is already elevated. So that elevation of core temperature kind of gets you off and running before you even need to, before you've actually had a chance to cool down. So if you were to jump in the sauna after you have cooled down, you probably have to make it a longer sauna session to achieve some of the same benefit. And it's hard to elevate core temperature just sitting in a sauna. Much easier to do it on a bike, especially if, as I've done in the past, toward the end of the workout, you turn the fan off 10 or 15 minutes. And even if that only includes your cool down, you'll generate a lot of heat.
Yes.
I mean, you'll be surprised. And then you hop in the sauna already heated up. And I mean, from minute one, you're already experiencing some of the physiologic and even psychological, I guess, benefits of this heat acclimation training, or this hyperthermic training as it's termed. And a really good resource on this is a blog post I've referenced many times, and we'll link to it in the show notes. But it has no fewer than 48 studies. I'd say probably 2/3 of them are specifically about hyperthermic training, and in particular sauna training. So lots of resources on the matter. Plenty of anecdotal data. I don't know why there's not much point in sharing that when there is this much scientific data to back it up.
Right.
And then I'll briefly cover some of it since we've touched on this a lot of times. But again, what you're after is elevated core temperature prior to the sauna session. So, I mean, if you take 5 minutes to go towel off or go to the bathroom or something, then hop in the sauna, you're probably not going to miss out on any of the benefits. But there's kind of two sides of this, the endurance benefit side and the general benefit side. And with the endurance benefit, primarily we're looking at improvements in plasma volume. So more water in your blood, put simply, water-ish in your blood. And that improves thermal regulation, helps you keep a lower core temperature, which means you could do more work before you overheat. It also makes you more sweat sensitive, and you have a higher sweat rate. So your body sweats earlier and it sweats more. And in the process of doing so, it reduces your electrolyte loss. So the more you get used to this, the more adapted to heat training you get, your heat exposure you get, the less electrolytes you lose, even though you're sweating even more.
Right. Yeah. Body becomes more efficient in that regard.
Yep. It starts to learn. It adapts. There is evidence of increased glucose transport, which means you're getting more blood to more sugar to the muscle. This also improves insulin insensitivity, and there's a lot of benefits that go along with that. In particular, your BCA uptake, your branched chain amino acid uptake, and less protein degradation are tied to this improvement in insulin sensitivity, which is tied to this uptick in glucose transporters. And then there's a lot of information on this, almost enough that we could do an individual deep dive on this topic alone. But there's an increase in something called heat shock proteins, and they're exactly what they sound like. You expose your body to heat shock, and you get an uptick in these particular proteins. One of their benefits is that they protect against, and there are many, that they protect against rhabdomyolysis. So that very harsh breakdown of muscle tissue that leads to some pretty severe results.
CrossFitters should be using saunas.
I mean, there's a case for it for sure. And then increased red blood cell count. That's never a bad thing. I mean, more oxygen carrying capacity, increased muscle perfusion, which is getting the nutrients in the blood into the muscle. This improves, and this might also be tied to the decrease in glycogen usage, because we're getting more oxygen and we can work more aerobically. We can stretch that sugar farther because aerobic metabolism yields far more energy than anaerobic does. And then the general benefits is regrowth of muscle tissue. And given this study, and there may have been later human studies on this was done in rats. But, for obvious reasons, we can't, ethical reasons, we can't experiment on humans like we do on rats. It's arguable whether we should be experimenting on rats either, but that's neither here nor there.
Rabbit hole going down that one.
And then increases in growth hormone. And one study in particular showed that by day 3, there was a 16 times increase in growth hormone in these subjects. I mean, that's a heck of a lot. And the same with IGF, so insulin-like growth factor 1, which both of these have to do with restoration of or regrowth of bone, cartilage, and muscle. So overall, what we're looking at is reduced protein degradation, less muscle loss during workouts and post-workout. Also, increases in BDNF. This is a brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which has to do with your neurons and your synapses, both their growth and their health. So better brain activity, better brain health, to put it simply. And then increases in endorphin sensitivity. So, your runner's high could actually be at a higher level, a greater release of endorphins, more pain modulation, if you will.
It sounds like it's so beneficial
Sounds like it's too beneficial.
These are all individual studies, so it's not like you're going to get all these things because you jump into a sauna 30 times a week, a couple times, or 30 minutes at a time, a couple times, 3 times, you get all of it. But so that leads us to the recommended application, and there's some pretty wide ranges out here in terms of temperature, in terms of how long they stay in the sauna, how many times they stay in the sauna. But in general, it seems to be, try to keep it immediately post-workout so you have that elevated core temperature. The duration and the frequency, we're looking at anywhere from 15 to 60 minutes is what I commonly see. 30 minutes seems to be the most commonly utilized, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, 3 being probably the most common. They start this like 15 days out from race and try to do it up as close to the event as possible because those declines in the plasma volume and the reversal of these adaptations happens pretty quickly.
Yeah.
As far as the temperatures, I've seen everything from 41 Celsius, which is a little over 100 Fahrenheit, all the way up to 100 Celsius, which is 212 Fahrenheit, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's obviously the extreme end of things. I don't know anybody who makes a sauna. You could,
I think your hair would just.
I'm guessing those were animal studies, but
slow roast.
Broil actually is the
literally
setting you do. Yeah,
it is literally a roast. But most commonly, we're looking at 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's about what my sauna goes up to. So that's what I do.
What about
infrared? Which is like 50 to 55 Celsius.
What about infrared saunas?
That's most of what I read. There were dry saunas, and I think dry saunas and infrared saunas are basically synonymous.
No, or infrared is like it's like a little microwave to make you feel hotter, but it's not the same temperature.
Okay, that's what I use, and that does get up to 130.
Yeah, and then a dry sauna would be just heat. So it'd be radiant heat that you just get in your skin.
Oh, a sauna, versus a steam room, of course.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. I from what we've heard, I believe we actually talked about this on a podcast prior, but there wasn't much of a difference between there. But it doesn't need to be.
Both heat you up.
I haven't seen one thing that said this is better than the other. Infrared is better than dry. Is better than.
If you live in Arizona, based off of that, you can just stay outside after your workout.
Just walk outside.
Quite literally. Yeah. I mean,
and you'd be fine.
Got to concern yourself with sun exposure at that point, but. Yeah, we're just looking for a further increase or at least a leveling off at a high level of your core temperature.
So my question is, do you have to have the exercise and then elevate, or can you just elevate it in the sauna and just be in there longer?
That's what I was saying. I mean, if you don't bring that to the table, that pre-elevation of your core temperature, then it's going to take longer to get up to a level that actually stresses the body to a point where it starts to adapt in these ways.
So he could then still get benefit.
I think
just
so.
being there longer.
I think so, but that's it. You're going to have to sit in the sauna longer. You're going to have to bring yourself back up to the temperature at which you left your workout, stay there for a little while, and expose yourself to some time at that elevated core temperature. And I don't know if there's any hard numbers on this. It's not like you have to reach such and such core temperature or have to be in a sauna at this temperature for this length of time. Any exposure to it is going to have some effect. It's just a question of how much.
Mm-hmm. Should we get a sauna?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
I got one. It's my bike room at home now. I've moved, so it's a new bike room. It's a small room. All it accommodates is 2 bikes and trainers and a sauna.
Yeah, and you have it's almost like a closet sauna. It's like really,
it's a 2-person.
People can sit in it, but they're pretty close.
And surprisingly affordable. They don't cost much.
Yeah.
It
just takes a lot of room.
It does. I mean, this one, I think it's a 4x4 footprint, so it's not too bad. And then 6 feet tall.
The benefits seem awesome on here. I've used them before, so I used them actually at Powder Creek Lodge when we did that, but I didn't have elevated core temperature going into that, obviously.
And even just the heat exposure, even outside of the endurance sports realm, they use it to treat a lot of maladies. I mean, even depression and psychological disorders.
2 things that spending 30 minutes in a sauna, depending on the heat, is really hard. For people that don't, it can be extremely tough.
It's
You'll
surprising.
Get used to it.
You will. The first couple of exposures, I mean, maybe do 15 or 20 minutes instead of shooting for the entire 30 because it gets almost puts you in a panic state.
Yes.
It's really uncomfortable. And if you're just watching those last couple of minutes tick down, it can really mess with your mind.
It can, yeah. So give yourself time to work into that. But then on the other side of things too, I found, and you touched on this with the sweat rate thing, I'm a person that doesn't naturally sweat a lot. And that usually bites me. At some point, I have an early season race that is unusually hot. And then, the sweat problems are tough.
I think there was even a study or two that talked about improved vascularization too.
Yes, yeah.
It rings a bell.
And it also better performance in cold weather.
Yes.
Even if you don't do hot weather.
Not necessarily cold weather, but non-hot weather.
Non-hot weather, yeah.
Yeah. You smiled a lot.
Because committed to do Cape Epic in 2021
Yes, with Sofia Gomez Villafane.
Well, see, and all of us should have done this prior to Kona. I guarantee we would have had better early rides in Kona because by the end of the trip, by the end of the trip, the rides felt pretty good regardless of the heat.
We were pretty good
but
the whole
early
time,
on. Sure, you were. But I'm saying you could have been better.
Yeah.
It's I noticed after Powder Creek Lodge, after Kona, because it was basically living in a sauna, but after Kona, my sweat rate was back way up. I felt like I was sweating early in my workouts, and I liked that. That was good. And then after Powder Creek Lodge, spending times in the sauna there, my workouts once again, even though we were up in frigid Canadian mountains up there, but that heat exposure ended up as soon as I came back and got on the bike, I was sweating early again.
Yeah, even without the sauna, I mean, you spend all your time, 90% of your time, 95% of your time hiking, and depending on the amount of layers you have on you, your
core temperature's up.
Pretty lifted in terms of core temp.
Yeah, so it's and I notice improved benefits whenever that happens, and I know Sofia Gomez Villafane, who you're going to be racing with there at Cape Epic, which is going to be an awesome team, by the way.
So cool. Have we talked about this?
Yeah, I don't think we have. No,
okay.
It's going to be great.
It's 2 years away, and you're going to hear about it every week. I'm already like moving races out of my head.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do for this 2-week build? Because she's way faster than me, but I need to come up to her level in 2 years.
She's a Stan's Pivot Pro Team rider. She's one of the best mountain bikers in the country right now in the U.S.
Well, she has 2 national championships in Argentina.
She's the dual national champion in Argentina right now, in short track and XCO.
Wow.
So she's legit. But
got work to do.
You're screwed, buddy.
But
it'll be fun.
She's also mentioned this earlier in the year. We had that race in San Dimas in Benelli at Benelli Park, and you can see a YouTube video that we posted with Keegan on that one, a race analysis video on YouTube. But she said that she isn't a natural sweater either, and she just she melted. She had in the middle of the race, she said she felt like she just hit like that boiling point.
Sure, she can't dissipate heat. Her body's not accustomed to dealing with temperatures like that, and it can't work as hard. And she's trying to work as hard and overwhelming the system.
And I know Keegan and Sophia, I know you have room for a sauna at the place that you guys have in the garage.
Absolutely,
every room. Just move Keegan's motorcycle aside and it'd be set. So you'll need it for Cape Epic, right? That's going to be exciting.
Really anything where you have to transition quickly into high temps.